Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Better Late Than Never, a series where I play old games that I never got around to playing and talk about what we can learn from them today. Now, it's the holidays and everything's kind of crazy, but I wanted to get one last little episode out before 2018 starts and we get back into the back half of my backlog. So today, we're going to take a very quick look at Marble Madness. What did I learn from the oldest game I've done for this series yet? Here are my 3 biggest takeaways from Marble Madness. Number 1, genre is a modern construct. As I played Marble Madness, I kept asking myself, what genre is this? I mean, is it a sports game? An action game? And that kind of got me thinking about some of my other favorite old games. Like, what the hell is Pac-Man's genre? And going even further than that, I started thinking of the first films, and how movies like A Train Arriving at the Station are so simple that you can't really put them into a good box either. And part of what's so interesting about old art is seeing what the medium looked like in its purest form. We talk so much in this series about how games build off one another, but Marble Madness doesn't really fall into that because there wasn't much before it for it to borrow from. It's pure craft, and I think that's what makes so many really old games so enduring and fascinating today. However, less enduring is... Number 2, limits have their limits. And what I mean by that is sometimes these games can only be... so good. Marble Madness is neat to revisit for the reasons I just talked about, but there's one thing that stands out here, and that's that it has 6 levels. In a perfect run, you can beat the game in just a few minutes. You've probably noticed that I'm already stretched thin for game footage here. Anyways, the limited tech of games can be pretty make or break for games at times. Donkey Kong and Pac-Man are so good because their mechanics are so fun that you don't really mind playing the same levels over and over again. Marble Madness, on the other hand, nah. Once I beat a level once, I really had no desire to go back to it, making every death a boring slog. I guess I could have spent my time perfecting each level to build up a perfect run, but the hook isn't strong enough to support it. So again, while games like this have such an inherently interesting historic component to them, playing them for more than 5 minutes quickly may remind you why many of these games are just kind of fading away. And speaking of that, I've got one last point, and that's that. Number 3, peripherals pose a weird challenge to game preservation. Game preservation is a topic that picks up more and more steam every year, and for good reason. But one thing I hadn't thought about is, how do you preserve games that are meant to be played with insane peripherals? Marble Madness is meant to be played with a trackball. Now, I didn't have access to that when I played it, so did I get the real experience of this game? I mean, arguably no. We can throw every game in the world on Steam or some internet archive, but that somehow doesn't feel like enough. Remember Steel Battalion and its $200 command center? Or Donkey Kong Jungle Beat and its bongos? Or even something as important to culture as Guitar Hero? I've never really given much thought to it before, but even if we could, it's kind of impossible to correctly preserve every game's experience. Some are just going to be completely lost. Controls are so unique to games as an art form, and that's both a blessing and a curse. Anyways, let's get off this depressing note. Let me say this. Thanks so much to everyone who's supported this series so far. Your comments, opinions, and recommendations have kept this project going, and I can't thank you all enough for it. As always, check out the list of games that I'm doing for this series in the description, and let me know what you want to see next in the comments. See you next year, everybody. I mean, in 2 weeks.